It's Wellness Wednesdays. It's Wellness Wednesdays. And yes, I look different. My most current pair of glasses broke. So I'm back to these. The thing with Adobe got fixed. Somebody finally talked to me like a human being, and then the nose piece on the one side of those glasses snapped right off, and it's not the kind you can wear without that, because unlike these that are good and sturdy, it just was like meh. So yeah, it's been a week, but that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about, I guess it's kind of like it. Um, when I was on Nerdette Newsstand stream on Sunday, somebody asked me what happens when your coping mechanisms conflict. And then somebody else asked me about overthinking this week. And I'm like, well, the two things are sort of combined. So we're going to talk about, healthy thinking patterns versus unhealthy thinking patterns. So if you like this content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for somebody who uses it but can't afford it, coffee.com/Leanna K. The one-on-one sessions are the best way to do direct work, to do specific work. There are Thursdays are jam-packed now, but there are spaces still on Wednesdays, and even Thursdays will be opening up in the coming week as people go on like vacation and stuff like that. So yes, if you'd like to sign up for Leanna Cares, please do. Now, I think a lot about stuff, in part because of the nature of my job. Every single one of these videos, I mean, they're pretty dense topics. I've gotta think a lot before I open my mouth, or I sound very stupid or bad stupid instead of just, the delightful stupid that you've all come to expect from me. And you can be prone to overthinking, especially with something like the Boss Fight web series. Now, the Boss Fight web series was especially challenging because it did require a level of, the continuity had to be correct. The eye lines had to be correct with all those different characters. It required a lot of planning. And I did spend a few nights just lying awake going, have I got that right? Have I got that right? Have I got that right? That happens sometimes. But some people are chronic. Some people say I'm a chronic worrier, but what it actually is just your brain consuming itself with the same essential general thought patterns over and over and over again. That's what we tend to talk about when we think about overthinking. And the thing about overthinking is it's something people say, people do sometimes as a dismissal. So I want to be very careful that we don't do that in this video. If something's bothering you, that's valid. That is not automatically overthinking or just unnecessary worry. Certain things do cause stress, and stress often causes us to focus on those problems, especially if you're a problem solver, if you're a systemized thinker. You do like to sort of work stuff out before you go ahead. I mean, with game design, right now with the Song of Sparkle Muffin game, we're in this chicken and the egg phase, right? Where we have to get these things done to know, like with the actual mechanics, so we know what to do with the narrative here. And then, because it with certain missions, especially early on, it's like, okay, we need this mission to teach this mechanic, right? So how do we lay that down? It's sort of, we try this, no, that doesn't work, we're shuffling it around. So it does involve a lot of deep brain thought, because deep thinking and creativity are linked. But those are positive results. When you're deep thinking, you feel like you're getting somewhere eventually. When you're overthinking, all you end up being is more upset. And that, to me, is the way to tell if you're deep thinking or you're overthinking. Now, overthinking, people describe different types of overthinking. some people just, they worry about everything. Their brain jumps from one thing to another, to another, to another. Just, you're trying to go to sleep at night and it's everything that, could possibly bombard you. And you have difficulty concentrating. Other people have, bad memories, particular things that they go over. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? Those are different issues with different solutions, right? Because if you just have uncontrollable thought patterns where it's just all over the place, worry, 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 that's obviously a different solution than if there's a few things in particular that are bothering you, right? And it could be trauma, it could be social anxiety, it could be a combination of these things. But you want to look for certain thought patterns that might be making you more miserable than you need to be. And these can sometimes, just being more aware of your thought processes can sometimes help slow down, if you're doing the revving, as it's called, just the, chronic stressing out about things you can't do anything about in that moment. Catastrophizing is a big one. When not only do you think of the absolute worst case scenario, but you overestimate the likelihood that that could happen. Now, for people like me, I have to figure out worst case scenarios professionally for obvious reasons. And so being able to turn that off is really important, precisely because it can drive you crazy. And most of the time, if you feel, sometimes it's worth, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, how likely is that? Not very. And sometimes when you think of what the worst that can happen and it's not that bad, it's comforting. But people who catastrophize tend to actually think of a more terrible than worst case scenario, right? For instance, you go and talk to someone, they may not want to talk to you and look at you weird and reject you. That's a likely worst case scenario. Then there's the, I'm going to go up to talk to someone and they're going to accuse me of assault and go tell a cop and they're going to believe her and I'm going to get arrested and my life is going to be ruined. Well, all right, technically that's a worst case scenario, but it's highly, highly unlikely to happen. And if you're basing your behavior on that instead of the actual likely worst case scenario, you're cutting yourself off from a lot of opportunities, right, to make friends. The other is all or nothing thinking. Black or white thinking, I guess, is what it used to be called, but that's not politically correct anymore. So we say all or nothing thinking. And, basically what that means is it's either bad or good, like amazing. There's no in between. It's either perfect or terrible, right? There's no neutral ground. There's no, that was just okay. And this is thinking a lot of people engage in, and it's not their faults. People have been trained by various educational systems to engage in, well, you've either got an A plus or that's it, you're a failure. Because of the ridiculous school standards that people have been brought up in. All of this is conditioning. All of this is learned skills that you can learn to control. But this particular one, the all or nothing thinking, is where self-compassion can get you really good results fast. And, no, it's not all or nothing. It's not you ace it or you fail completely. The reality is the majority of life is somewhere in between those two extremes. And if you're always focusing on needing the big win, this is something I had to realize because, I had kind of a crappy formative years. And so I based everything on achievements. And when you're in school, You can get like ridiculously high marks on something. And then you get out into the world and all those things that should be objective are not, right? You can do an amazing job on something and someone else will take credit for your work. You can do something fantastic and the boss doesn't have the vision to see what you're doing. You can do really good work, but the friend of one of the owners comes in and well, he's the friend of the owner and so he gets the spot, right? All of a sudden things become extremely unfair and extremely subjective. There's bias everywhere. And self-compassion is the only way to get through that because you can't do anything about it and it doesn't mean that nothing's good. It means that, well, one, it may be an indication that you're in a toxic work environment. It might be worth looking somewhere else. Or you have to find another way to set objectives so that you're getting those sense of accomplishments because the brain needs that, right? The brain needs, the way you build self-esteem is set an objective, complete the objective. Set an objective, complete the objective. Self-compassion is, well, if I didn't get some of those, it's okay. I'll try again. Just because you failed doesn't mean you're a failure. Performance versus identity, right? Another, when in the all or nothing thinking and the next thing overgeneralizing, they're linked, right? When you tend to do broad strokes on something, people who are emotional thinkers tend to overgeneralize. And the thing that's tricky about this is that overgeneralizations are really powerful in rhetoric. They're a great way to identify and isolate an other. They're a great way to bring people into your cause because they feel like they're part of something beyond themselves, right? But those same overgeneralizations can cause real problems in one-to-one communications, which is why some people who are great in front of crowds tend to be very lonely in their real life. You're better or worse at one of these or another. Me, I'm very specific when I think about things and talk about things, and then I have to go communicate in the world in something like this, and people complain that if I don't step into what I feel is the overgeneralization zone, I spend 7 minutes setting up a topic before I get into the topic itself. And I understand why people don't want to wait 7 minutes until they get to the meat of the argument. So I do my best, and sometimes I overdo it. And sometimes I do overgeneralize. But when it comes to this overthinking, the overgeneralization is everybody hates me. Nobody likes me. Nobody wants me around. And the trick there, when you find yourself that's more of a feeling. That's a feeling masquerading as a thought. It's a feeling in thought's clothing, right? And the goal there, the challenge, is to validate the feeling, because it's usually a feeling of overwhelm, but not the thought. So yes, I feel this way. I can think about it. It's not true. I know this person, they like me. They take opportunities to talk to me and be around me. Yes, they're busy, but that's different than them not wanting to be around me. But why do I feel this way? What can I do to make these feelings seem smaller? And the answer is not just pack them down. It is, should I take more me time? Something I really need to start doing. I've been so bad about that lately. And this is where self-compassion comes in. It's like I've spent hours 4 days out of a week fighting with a freaking tech support. Yes, 5 hours of multiple days got sucked out of my day this week. Yes, I've had to make that up. But I'm not going to do that forever. I'm not going to get sucked back into that cycle long term. And I am going to have to slow down because I'm feeling it. But, you know, if I were catastrophizing, if I was overgeneralizing, you know, if I was all or nothing, it would be, I'm never going to catch up. It's hopeless. They've ruined everything, you know. And we all have those moments. And ironically, the best way to keep those moments instead of chronic overthinking is to have the moment, validate the moment, recognize there's a reason you're feeling this way that's valid. Don't try to push it away. Don't try to back the moment down. Challenge it. There's a big difference in trying to push it away and challenging it, right? Try to push down the overthought, the bad code. Just makes it pick at you. It's like brain earworm. It's like that fucking Kate Bush song I got stuck in my head for 4 days. And this is when I'd normally sing, but I'm not alone in that. The last few times I've done that as a joke, someone's always like, no, God. Thanks, Netflix. But, you know, challenging the thought means actively engaging with it and defusing the loop, rerouting the loop, right? So, you know, okay, I have to do this thing. Break it into small pieces. What can you control? What can't you control? You know, I can't control that. Okay. No point in focusing on it. Why you can't control it? A lot of the times when you overthink something, it's a struggle to control things we actually can't control. And the way to get off that merry-go-round is to find something you can control, right? You may not be able to control someone ghosting you, for instance, or people falsely accusing you and not wanting to hang out with you anymore. And you know, I have this absolutely wonderful friend who's caught in this cycle of toxic people where he's trying to give people the benefit of the doubt and they're just not very good to him. And he deserves better. But he keeps going back for more waves of like low level abuse. And I keep, you know, telling him what I think about it, but it's got to be his choice. And sometimes people have to exhaust all the options for their own sense of conscience. And I understand that, right? It's hard to watch, but I understand that people have to do things their way so that they don't feel forced and that they actually learn from the experience, right? You know, another friend, you know, asked me to do this video because he's a chronic overthinker and his best friend is also a chronic, you know, spin cycle thinker because one of them has ADHD, one of them has OCD, and, you know, repetitive thoughts, clearly a thing with OCD, but OCD has a habitual, you have to do certain things as well. And that is a tough condition. There are some times where anti-anxiety medications are essential. And I know a lot of people do not want to be on pills for the rest of their lives. But sometimes you need to break that cycle to get your brain out of overclock so you can remember what it's like to think in a less exhausting way. And it can only be for a few months if you want, and then you got to give it time to work, and then you got to give you time to like set a new baseline, and then, you know, come down off it. Like I said, it doesn't have to be forever. It just might really help you The other thing you can do is actually set times of day to think. And I've been hearing this one a lot more. When I first started doing it, people are like, well, that's selfish. Nice, huh? I'm telling people what I need to do for my mental. That's selfish. People don't get that. But actually schedule times of day where you strategize. We call it focus time. And so you can actually work on a project without everything pulling you a bunch of different ways. But if you think about it as strategizing and not worrying or not overthinking it, and it's a set amount of time, it's like a half hour and then you're done for the day, sometimes that can help. I know I have a real problem when I don't, and I've been, again, really bad about this of late because my hours have been crazy. Not giving myself enough wind down time at night. Freaking shout out to Bobby Calloway recommending the Fear Street trilogy to me because I've started watching one of those. This is going to sound really weird, but watching one of those a night, I've slept better than I have in a really long time because it forces me to have 2 hours before bed where I'm not working. Because when you have to pay attention to those movies and they're not, the half hour episode of the Golden Girls I was doing. Wednesdays are good too because it's, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Ms. Marvel. So that's, this one's going to be a long one tonight too. But I have those. But when I don't have those and I work, I'll work until like 9 or 10. I won't eat dinner until like 10 or 11. And then I'm in bed by midnight. My brain is still spinning. I need that disconnect. And part of the problem is that all the things people do to get themselves out of work mode, someone in the media has told you somewhere it's bad for you. And, I've been having this thing about, the whole too much sitting. Because with the Leanna Care sessions, there are some days that I have 12 clients in a day. 10 clients is usual. So that's 1 hour per client with 15 minutes in between. That means I'm here for that long, right? And so I read all these things saying sitting is as bad as smoking. And I start going, oh my God, I'm killing myself with this stuff. And then I'm like, what are you doing? If you're doing your best, you know what's going to be worse for you? Worrying about this, worrying about this business you're trying to build, wrecking you. Because if you let all that negativity out there tell you to quit, first of all, the people that benefit from it don't get the benefits anymore, but also I deserve to build something. You deserve to build something. We deserve to live less than perfect lives so that we can better ourselves. And I'm so sick of all these video games are bad for you. I read an article about, I don't even know if you can say it on YouTube. The amount of stress just figuring out what YouTube can let you say, but this is bad for you. That is bad for you. Coffee's good for you. Coffee's bad for you. Certain amounts of, red wine is good for you. No, red wine is bad for you. No, it's kind of good for you, but it's kind of bad for you. I avoided salt because that was supposed to be bad for you. I have chronic low blood pressure. Guess what's really good for me? Salt. And I'm not like pouring salt into my mouth, right? But the thing I was doing based on generalized messaging was actually not right for me. And that's where you get the, memento mori thing? Remembering you'll be dead someday. We all got a time, right? And if we're spending so much time worrying overthinking, driving ourselves crazy. We're burning ourselves out from living. We're not truly experiencing life. We're not the acting cliche. We're not in the moment because we're so busy either replaying the past or trying to plan for the future. And we've been conditioned for this. Again, this is not your fault. This is not my fault. And we all deserve better. And so, finding someone to talk to can help. I had this one, it came in through the It's Not Therapy radio show. This one guy just, hey, I saw, here's a question. I don't know if you can use it in the radio. And he just poured it all out, right? And it was very specific. So I said, hey, people donate sessions. Do you want to talk for an hour? And he said, I don't know. I'll think about it. Actually, just writing it out made me feel better. So, talk to a friend, write it out, write it on a word processor, and then you don't have to keep it. Just, writing it out can sometimes... some people do better by talking. Talking is a specific form of process. Drawing is a specific form of process. I am a chronic doodler. I totally understood what Johnny Depp was doing in that trial because I do the same thing. I just draw basically tendrils. I don't know why. It just helps me focus. Writing things out sometimes is important. I freeform these videos, but you'll notice other ones like Manly Mondays. I make notes in advance because they need to be more coherent. They'll just go everywhere, and that's fraught with landmines, right? Each of these things, drawing, speaking, writing, moving, sometimes just moving around can release tension. That's why some people bounce a ball, though. Be very careful. I used to love bouncing tennis balls, but anybody in earshot may be driven crazy by that. So take that one with a grain of salt. Sometimes going outside on a nice sunny day and just taking a big deep breath, that can help. Sometimes going out on a really nice night, listening to the rain, anything that resets, anything that makes you feel like your thinking is making you happier and more relaxed as opposed to more panicked and more stressed. And man, before I started watching those Fear Street movies, I actually said to a few people when all that craziness with Adobe was going on, I actually said, I cannot relax. I have not been able to relax for 3 or 4 days. And all it was my one thing about it was that I was not going to lose it on them. I refused to really lose my temper so that I became like a Karen instead of somebody who was, annoyed, but effectively advocating my position. But boy, was I afraid I was going to lose it because it was just so frustrating. And so I was distracted. I was losing sleep. I was unable to concentrate on work things because it was unresolved. And, they'd be sending me these emails and phoning at odd times, and it was very, very disruptive. And those are the moments where you have to go, this will get resolved. You're not going to be able to make this go any faster by stressing any more than you have to. Our cat Link, cute little Linky, he needed surgery. He needed a benign growth removed from his mouth this week. So that was a source of stress. My glasses broke. We have a squirrel in the house that we're now on like day 4 of trying to trap. Day 3, it came in Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's still alive. We saw it yesterday. Bobby was chasing it around, but we cannot get the damn thing to go in any of the traps. And it's a red squirrel, and these things are aggressive as fuck. So yeah, and I'm coming up on another medical thing, and this and that, and all the things, and there is no way through but through. And it is what it is. Sometimes that's all you can do. I take the moments to go, "Roar," and then I say, okay, I have to focus now. And sometimes changing pace, like when it's not super windy, or I take my laptop outside, because sometimes a change in pace can help. But sometimes you are compromised in the short term. And sometimes the only thing you can do is practice that self-compassion and just say, I'm doing my best. And this best isn't my usual best, but it's the best I can do right now. Makes sense? Makes sense, hopefully. All right, thanks for the request. Please, I love requests for Wellness Wednesday. If you want something covered, then someone else will want something covered. And if you have specific questions, send me tweets or emails to the Not Therapy Show stuff, because I can be more specific there. So help support the channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/Leanna K. Thanks for watching and be well.